Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the 3 keys for healthy knees. You can think of this as your personal knee checklist, a quick way to assess how your knees are doing, and more importantly, how you can start improving them today. And the best part is no trip to the doctors required to do these assessments, no trip to the doctors required to get started improving your knees if you do note deficits in any of these areas. So let's dive right into it and assess those knees. So the first key to healthy knees is full range of motion. Now, this isn't just about range of motion at the knee, it's also about range of motion at the hips and range of motion at the ankles. Your hips and your ankles offer a ton of support for the knees. And whenever we're looking at a knee injury, we always got to look at the joints above and below because if you have any damage, any irritation to those areas, they can impact the knee itself as well. So then we have to think about what normal knee range of motion is, and we'll look at both bending and extending or straightening the knee. So when it comes to bending the knee, you should have about 120 degrees of range of motion. And then when it comes to straightening the knee, you should be able to get to around zero or that full extension of the knee. Now, this is going to vary quite a bit person to person, but what's most important is that you have around equal range of motion side to side. If you've got more range of motion on one side than the other, it can start to lead to some different abnormalities. So, a quick and easy way to test your knee range of motion is to sit on the floor. You can do this with your back supported against the wall if you'd like, and then you're just going to pull the knee or pull your foot as close to your hips as you can. And after that, you're going to kind of assess where you're at with that motion. So you should be about a heel or foot's length from your hips. And if you're not, you might be lacking a little bit of range of motion. If you can go further, great. And again, do this on both sides and see what kind of differences are present. If you do find that you're lacking some range of motion, it's not necessarily a reason to jump into getting super stressed or getting over anxious because this is something that you can, in most cases, improve fairly quickly. So, simple exercises such as heel slides, you can either look them up on my channel if you want a more in-depth explanation, or I'll put a video up here of how to do heel slides as well, or a stair stretch where you're putting one foot on a step and leaning forward and coming backwards to try and bend that knee into a little bit greater range of motion. Both those are great ways to start to work on that flexion or bending range of motion. Now, if you don't have full straightening range of motion, that can be another issue as well. A good way to test this is if you have your knee flat on the ground and you slide your hand right underneath, the back of your knee should be touching your hand. If your knee is bent up like this and you put your hand underneath and there's a good amount of space between the top of your hand and the bottom of your knee, that could mean you have a flexion contracture or your knee is in that bent position at rest. And a good way to work on that is just by putting a towel underneath your heel and trying to keep your leg as straight as you can while you're just resting. So that prolonged stretch can actually help you get some of that motion back. And if that feels too easy, you can put a little bit of a weight on your leg as well. That's key number one. Now, key number two is quad strength. So the quad is this fat muscle that sits on top of your thigh. There's 4 different parts to it. And this is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to protecting your knee, making sure things are moving as well as they need to, as well as being an insurance policy for the knee. So the reason I talk about the quad as being an insurance policy is because the stronger that quad muscle is, the more it can make up for any damage, any irritation around the knee, to any tissues, ligaments, joints. The stronger the quad is, the more protection you have. And the weaker the quad is, if you don't have strong quads, then some of those tissue injuries or tissue irritation can start to become more present. So it's super, super important that you're working on that quad strength. So then how can you tell if your quads need a little bit more love? You might feel pain going up or down the stairs. You might feel pain after, more demanding activity involving the legs, whether that's more walking, hiking, biking. All of a sudden you're starting to notice more pain around the knees. And then even nagging knee pain during everyday movements can be a sign that the quads are weak. So to start building strength up in the quads again, you could try simple exercises like quad sets or straight leg raises. Both those again are linked on my page. Or you could try something like chair squats. There are beginner friendly exercises that focus directly on strengthening the quad, so it doesn't have to be super elaborate to start with. If you are further along, there's also ways that you can progress by adding more weight and getting deeper into those movements. But really, it's all about creating a solid foundation when it comes to that quad strength. The third key is knee stability and neuromuscular control. So this is your ability to control your knee's position throughout various activities and various movements. And a quick way to test your stability is you could do something like a squat or a single leg squat and pay attention to how well you're able to control your knees. Is it a fluid, smooth movement, or are your knees wobbling all over the place and you feel like you're going to fall over? So watch what your knee does. If it is wobbling or wanting to cave in, it could be a sign of decreased control. Now, some people naturally will have a pattern where their knees cave in, and that's normal, that's fine. But other people who have weakness will notice, a lot of decreases in control there, which can be leading to other issues. So, most cases you'll know based on the feeling. If it does feel like you're incredibly unstable, then it could be definitely be a control issue. If you're not sure, you can always seek out a professional opinion as well. But stability and control are all about training your body to move efficiently and safely. So, adding exercises that are focusing more on the balance and focusing on control, especially single leg movements like step downs, lunges, things like that, can make a huge difference over time. So, super important that you're training for stability, that you're not just rushing through movements, that you are making sure that you're controlling the entirety of the movement while you are performing these exercises, and that'll help a lot improving that knee stability and the neuromuscular control. So, just again to recap, the three keys to healthy knees are full range of motion, number one, strong quads, number two, and then three, solid knee stability and control. And the reason we go in that order is because we need to get that full range of motion back first. It's not necessarily always helpful to strengthen through a small range of motion. We want to strengthen through that full range of motion that's so you can be very functionally strong and do all the things you need to do. And then moving on to building up the quads once you do have that full range of motion. And then when you've got that range of motion and you've got that strength, then we start to work on more complex pieces such as that control. And like I said earlier, the great news, these are all things you can start working on right now. So take a few minutes rather, to test your knees with the simple methods that we talked about. And if you notice any areas that need improvement, you can try some of the exercises that I mentioned just to get you started. But healthy knees don't just happen. They're built with consistency and they're built with care. So if you found this video helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, or even share with someone who might find this information to be beneficial. And if you liked what you saw, feel free to, and if you need a little bit more help, feel free to comment in the comments knee, or you can text the number that is linked in the comments as well if you want to set up an online evaluation where we'll go a little bit further into your specific knee pain and what we can do to help. But this will give you a great guideline, great way to get started on some of this. And then it's just about progressing consistently over time. So hopefully you found some value in this. Hopefully it was helpful, and we will see you in the next one.